I've got all the pieces laid out here for Kondor Blue's cage for the Lumix S5II. This is the first Kondor Blue product that I've used, so I don't know, I'm gonna put this kit together and see how it works. First of all, they've got this metal body cap to make things look a little more beautiful, keep your sensor clean. I really wish the shutter would automatically close on the S5II. It does that on my R5, which to me is just completely obvious, but I know a lot of cameras don't do that. This is the cage, it's the star of the show. One thing I really appreciate with any cage is when they build in and include the tools necessary to adjust or assemble it. So first I've got to start by taking it apart a little bit. So Kondor Blue did just send this to me, and this stuff is all still kind of pre-release, like even the camera isn't available for purchase yet, so I'm seeing how it goes and I've kind of been giving them feedback. One thing I mentioned to them right away is that you have to remove and insert a lot of these small screws just to get the camera on and off, and that kind of drives me crazy. Their response was that it massively improves the rigidity of it. So when they've tried things that only had one screw, it was a lot more flexible and would vibrate more. So by having all of these screws, that's part of what makes it so incredibly solid. They're also saying that their philosophy is that on cameras that are more video focused, like this one, they emphasize the idea that it's a cage you're not going to take on and off as often because this is mostly a video camera, so you're probably going to want to keep it rigged up most of the time. Okay, so we got the bottom off, and then there is one standard 1/4-20 screw that goes into the bottom of the camera and just holds it in there forever. Oh, maybe I didn't need to take these two out. I always kind of wish this bottom plate could just have notches in it to make this Arca Swiss compatible so that without adding anything else, I could slide it into an Arca mount because that's what I use a lot of the time. No idea if that would work, I always think about it. A nice improvement to the S5II is that these notches for the straps are solid now. They used to be flippy on the first S5 so that they jangle and kind of make sound. Now they're rock solid, and that's the reason that you need to take off all the screws is because to fit this in, it locks right into those slots. So the fact that the cage slots in perfectly to those rigid little metal brackets really helps keep it solid. Okay, wait, obviously I'm doing this wrong because now I can't get this piece back in. Okay, here's the answer. I should put that top plate on before the bottom plate. That's what I'm doing wrong here. There we go. I hope you weren't looking for an instruction manual how to install this thing because I'm just figuring it out. Kondor didn't explain it to me. All right, now our tool goes back in the bottom, and now we've got a rock solid cage. It's ready for anything. A few thoughts about the cage. I wasn't sure about the placement of this airy rosette before, but after talking to them, there is a handle coming soon that looks awesome and will fit perfectly here. But what I really like about the handle they've got here is that it actually fully supports the record button. So this red thing on top actually works, and it just goes directly in. I massively prefer when there is a cable that's going to trigger the record over Bluetooth because it's just so much more reliable, and missing record, like, you don't want to miss record. That's a very essential feature. So, and this just slides on the top. There's a NATO rail integrated into the cage there, and now it's rock solid. By the way, the sides are also NATO rails. So if you have those types of handles, you can also attach, obviously this is the wrong direction of the handle, but anything that is like a standard NATO mount will grab onto the side and be just as strong of a connection there. But we're going on the top. And Lumix gives us this remote port right here in the front, so we're gonna go directly from there to the handle's remote input. And this is looking pretty good. This is like kind of the essential thing I want when I'm holding a video camera, is to be able to grab onto the top of it. That's usually my most important handle. But this cable, it's not looking good yet. So let's open up Kondor Blue's latest collaboration with Armando. I really like that they developed these. These are the Mondo ties. And it doesn't matter what kind of rig you own, who manufactured it, these are totally universal. There's a standard 1/4-20 that holds it in, and it just will tie down any set of cables you've got. And with that small addition, we've gone a very long way in the cable management of this. By the way, I wanted to test something Armando did in his video. Okay, let's hang this by a cable. Yeah, I mean, like he was supporting the full weight of a bigger rig. But yeah, these don't flex as you add cables to them. Also, you can get them in black and red as well to match a different rig that you might have. So let's put a lens on here, because this is already very usable. How about a 24mm? I'm just gonna blow this out, because my Canon sensors just have been clean forever, and I've been really used to not having to worry about it. Because on the C70, I always keep an adapter on there so there's never dust getting into it. And then on the Canon R5, it'll basically, yeah, like I said, close the sensor so that there's no ability to get there. I'd love just to have a menu option so I could tell it like close the sensor every time I open the lens cap area, but there we go. So this is like enough rig. This is actually probably how I'd end up using it most often. Side handle would be a great addition as well, but we're already most of the way there just by adding this top handle. Let's turn the camera on just so we can test out that record button. And there we go. All right, we've got an active record button. So now we got one there, one here. Fantastic. Yeah, like I say, I like to rig things just enough for them to take care of the job that I have in front of me. I don't like to add a lot of extra bulk if I don't have to. So typically I don't like to put on like a proper matte box unless I need it. So what we're gonna be using today is the Polar Pro variable NDs. This is the 2 to 5 stop, which is all I'd need in the studio, but I also have the 6 to 9 stop here, which these are 1.8 lenses, which is like pretty fast. So if you're gonna be shooting outdoors, you would actually need the speed. And actually, right now, this one has my adapter on it. So that's what I'm gonna mount for now, because it's got the step down ring to 67mm. Which, by the way, that's like the absolute best thing, I think, about all these Panasonic lenses. They're all 67mm. So, you know, whatever set of NDs you get can just swap back and forth. I do think that makes it easier to have fixed NDs instead of always using variable. Like this one is from the Camera Store, the Camera Store TV, if you know their channel. So just Photo Republic, it's their own brand. Of course, has some fingerprint smudge. How do you guys handle external NDs? They drive me crazy. I mean, I really, really prefer internal. But yeah, like I say, if you're gonna have to use external, much better to have them all fit. I mean, like I've got all of these lenses that Panasonic lent me, like, you know, between all the primes it fits, which is great, but also some of the zooms. So this is the 20 to 60mm kit lens, exact same size, 67mm. I haven't seen any other camera manufacturer match lenses like this other than Lumix. So this is huge focus on video. Usually you only get this if you buy cinema glass, which will cost more, often only be manual focus. It's really a pretty big deal. And while we finish setting this up, let's just put on Polar Pro's big chunky lens cap. So next we'll add the Manfrotto plate to the bottom here. Whenever possible, I really do prefer Arca Swiss because I use small tripods a lot of the time. Like I don't need all of that size. And then there's these little adapters that Small Rig makes where you can use an Arca Swiss plate and put it onto a Manfrotto receiver. So often that's how I'm kind of like moving back and forth. I'm not good at screwing things, especially not under the pressure of a video, but we're all friends here, right? Okay. And there it is with the plate attached. And I've already added their 15mm rails into the base plate here. So this receives any standard Manfrotto plate and then has an airy dovetail on the bottom if you want to put it onto a bigger rig, usually bigger than what I actually use, but that's okay. I'm using these rails today so I can add a battery. That's the most important part. So there we go. We have a solid but quick release in case we wanted. Just pop this on and off. but it's definitely in there. You need to press 2 buttons to release this. So, and the goal of this is that I want to add this small rig battery. I've talked about this a little bit lately. I love these batteries. They're incredibly smart. So this one's only 50 watt hours, which is actually pretty small, but this is a pretty small rig, so I think it's a good fit. There's a lot to love in this battery. For one thing, it actually looks nice, which is very rare. Like, it's kind of the biggest thing on the back of a lot of setups. Like, you see it. So I don't know why so many companies just put a big sticker on there, but it has a nice detailed display that shows you the percent or while it's charging. It shows you how much energy is going out, different ports. It's got the USB-A and USB-C, which it can charge from the USB-C. That's the biggest reason that I've been bringing this battery with me everywhere. Charging over USB-C is huge. I mean, once I can use an iPhone charger instead of carrying around the big typical V-mount chargers, like, that's absolutely massive. And then it has the standard like 8 volt and 12 volt outputs, as well as a D-tap on the side. But in this setup, I'm actually only going to be using that USB out. And next we'll add Kondor Blue's V-mount plate to the back. And I found I really have to press this in to get it to lock. Otherwise, it kind of wants to pop out, but it's safe now. And yeah, I'm just going to charge over USB-C. One thing to know about the Lumix S5II is that it has a sort of weird situation with the dummy battery. You can't just like leave this open and have a cable coming out of the port. It needs something more specific that actually runs through this tiny little hole. I don't know if you can see it there, but the dummy battery situation isn't great. So that's why I'm using USB-C and it works just fine. All right, and the red light is confirmation that this is charging. So now again, this cable is pretty messy, even though it's not very long. So let's get another Mondo tie in here. And later we're going to be able to use this same Mondo tie to run our HDMI cable up to the monitor. What I just realized I'm missing actually is there's like cable protection. I think it might be in the box for the camera, and I didn't take it out. Anyway, that should be added, but I don't have it around. So that cable will not be protected at the moment. Then maybe you can spot a flaw in how I have it set up so far. I can't open up our monitor, so I will loosen the plate and the rails attachment. I can just slide, whoops, loosen it more. And then I can just slide this back until this can swing freely. That's kind of just how I've been setting that distance to the back, is that so it's exactly the right size to get that all the way open. And I think one of the biggest compromises on the S5II that they'll probably resolve in something like an S2H or whatever the sequel is with Lumix is that it doesn't also flip, because you can do that on like the GH6 and some other cameras, so that it could flip up without having to flip out. That'd be a huge improvement, especially for a rig like this. All right, and like this, I mean, I think we've hit another milestone. This would now be fully usable as it is. So here is basically just another rig option as we go. I got trigger on the top. Also, I really appreciate these leveling balls that are attached to Kondor Blue so that you can just tell if your camera is level at a glance. You don't have to pull up the on-screen level to check on a digital one. Also, not every camera has a digital level. So one thing I wasn't able to get set up with this rig is the Panasonic XLR1 unit, which is just a really great XLR input system that goes direct into the hot shoe of the S5II or S5, or I think it's compatible with most modern Panasonics. But the thing is, it passes that signal digitally, and to do that, you need a cable that is compatible. I know there are some out there. I just need to track them down and test them so that I could run a cable from the hot shoe over to, like, let's say this cold shoe, or maybe, oh, this might be good. Like if I could run it out of this back cold shoe, I don't know, something like, oh wait, this one, right? This is what I'd do. So in theory, this would be good if I could make it work. I don't know, I got to figure that out. But for now, what can we add? We can definitely add a monitor to it. So next we're gonna take Kondor Blue's little monitor attachment clamp here. So this is a NATO rail on the top and an airy, oops. It has some airy pins on the bottom. I'm actually not sure why these aren't attached. These little black things have fallen out a few times. I might as well just glue them in there, I guess, but. Now we're gonna add the monitor. This isn't quite the ideal monitor for it. This is my Focus 7, my Cine 7 is in for repairs, and it's a little, I think, oversized for this. I also don't have a cable to run the power for my battery, so I'm gonna have to add these little NPL batteries to the back. Kind of shifts the weight wrong, but one thing to note for this specific setup is that I've added Kondor Blue's little NATO rail attachment here. This is like universal, you can fit it into whatever, so that now you've got a NATO rail on whatever you need it to be on, and then I can just slide it in on the top. Now we tie it all together with the HDMI cable. Too bad this is not Gerald's purple cable, but. You know, I probably should have just done the whole video like this, not showing my face. It's much more useful. Okay, and I'm gonna switch down to the less powerful ND here so we can see things. And there we go. We have a fully kitted out Lumix S5II. I mean, this is great. Like, this is a totally killer setup. I think if this was a 5-inch monitor and was being powered by the V-Lock battery, then I'd be set. And someday, if it had an internal ND. So yeah, I don't know. Panasonic is working on a box camera version of this. I hope it is possible to cram an ND inside, even if it makes the body bigger. That's my wish list. One thing I'll note is that this joint doesn't really hold the amount of weight here. So 7-inch monitor plus batteries, I have to basically kind of keep re-tightening this. And also that it's a third size of hex key. I don't really like that it's a slightly different Allen key than the others. So there's a note for Kondor Blue on what I'd love to see changed in a future version of this monitor mount. So this rig is, well, it's almost there. I think I still need a few more pieces to make it perfect, but it's looking pretty great. Let me know how you guys would change it. Super appreciate you hanging out on the second channel here. See you in the next one.